Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Housing for All, a production of the Dallas Housing Coalition. My name is Andrea Gillespie, and I serve as your host for the Housing for All webinar series. I'm also the Senior Manager of Community Development at Charles Schwab Bank and a board member of the Dallas Housing Coalition. Thank you for joining us this morning. On each episode of the Housing for All webinar series, we discuss whether Dallas is big and if it is truly big enough for everyone by having impactful one-on-one conversations with members of the Dallas Housing Coalition and other community leaders who are Dallas's strongest advocates for keeping the city affordable. Joining us today is Shaye Grant, a seasoned real estate agent with over 7 years of experience in the dynamic markets of Dallas, Houston, and Austin. Shaye's in-depth understanding of local markets, gained through extensive research and analysis, allows her to provide clients with informed advice and sound decision-making. Her achievements in the real estate industry highlight her expertise, negotiation skills, and commitment to exceptional customer service. Shaye has helped numerous families find their forever homes and remains dedicated to ongoing professional development, ensuring she stays at the forefront of the industry and its trends to better serve her clients. Thank you so much for joining us, Shaye.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Well, we'll just go ahead and jump right into the conversation.
Sure.
You have an extensive bio, which definitely demonstrates your experience in the Dallas, Houston, and Austin real estate markets. And I'm just wondering, from your perspective, how do the housing markets in each city compare to one another? And what factors do you feel are driving Dallas's housing market?
Sure. Great question. So Dallas, Houston, and Austin's housing markets all have things that make them unique. One of the things that Dallas is driving the demand in Dallas is that we're a major business hub. We have a diverse economy, and we're driven by different industries in Dallas like technology, finance, and healthcare. So our housing market really benefits from the consistent job growth that's been happening in the DFW. And that's really compared to nationwide, but particularly in Texas. We also have seen, along with the consistent job growth, is affordable living compared to like coastal cities or even just comparable metropolitan areas. I know that people sometimes complain that, yeah, the cost of living in Dallas is skyrocketing, which it is getting higher. But even still, if we compare apples to apples of other cities, it's still pretty affordable. And there's also just been a steady influx of new residents in the DFW. I think anybody that's been living here for more than a couple of years could probably agree and say, yeah, I mean, I meet somebody every other day that's from New York or from California. So we have a lot of people wanting to live here. And I think it has a lot to do with the job market and just the cost of living. So to kind of delve into the weeds of Houston, Austin, and Dallas, Houston's market is heavily influenced by the energy sector. So, if you've visited Houston, you have family there, a lot of energy companies kind of hold power in Houston. Now, despite them being more energy sector, they still have a very diverse population. And one thing that you'll notice about Houston is that they have relatively affordable property and housing compared to Dallas and Austin, but they still have a strong market. So the housing market in Houston is doing well, but their homes are a little bit more affordable compared to Dallas and especially Austin as well. And then Austin really has seen rapid growth because they've been driven by the tech sector. And in my purview, typically, if somebody's moving to Austin, or if a company's moving to Austin, they're usually in the tech field. Like we saw Tesla moving to Austin and kind of having their hub there, as well as Tesla even building their own communities and housing. Like Tesla partnered with Lennar, which is a home builder, just to build their own communities out in Austin, which was kind of a big deal. And so the higher property prices in Austin And the influx of tech companies, people looking for tech jobs, has really driven up the prices in Austin, and it's caused it to be quite competitive. I would say they're a little bit ahead of Dallas when it comes to housing prices, but that's really about it. But Austin has experienced some of the highest rates of appreciation in the state, and that's mainly because the housing market was already pretty high on pricing, and then the influx of tech companies, people looking for those type of jobs in those communities, really drove the price up. So I would say if I had to like have a pecking order of most expensive city to live in compared to least expensive, it's going to be Austin at number one, being the most expensive. Then you have Dallas right in the middle because that's a sweet spot, right? And then we're going to have Houston being the cheapest of the three to, or the least expensive rather, to live in compared to the other two.
Great, great. That's very informative. Thank you for that. And it sounds like with Dallas, I mean, you have a couple things going on here where it has a multifaceted economy that's attracting a lot of workers that can have a lot of different roles in our economy, and they're coming from all parts of the country, which sounds like, from your point of view, are the biggest factors driving the Dallas housing market when compared to the other two cities that are more focused on one or two big sectors. Great.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to talk now about obviously day in and day out as a realtor, you're working with home buyers who in most cases are probably making one of the biggest, if not biggest, financial decision of their lives. And so they have to factor in a lot of things when they're finding their home and working with you. Probably one of the main thing is their budgets.
Sure.
So I'm wondering, how are these prospective home buyers navigating the market and finding the best option for themselves, given what you shared about Dallas kind of being in the middle in terms of homing prices between Austin and Houston, and then also their own budget considerations. How are they navigating the market?
Sure. So right now, navigating the Dallas market is really a combination of things. Like we really have to have a plan, right? So a lot of buyers are having to have a combination of flexibility, right? They're going to have a strategy which we build together. And part of that strategy is going to be identifying their top priorities. So if it's going to be price, then we start with price. Like, okay, where is going to be the cheapest, the most affordable area, right? I hate using the word cheap, but the most affordable area. Then location comes after that, and size. And then last on that list is amenities. And that's mainly because, if you're trying to make sure where you're living is affordable, it's where you need it to be, like school districts, then, amenities is always something that can be, changed, or you can always figure out outside of your home what you want to do for fun. So it doesn't have to necessarily amenities don't have to define where you decide to live. But I always tell buyers to consider neighborhoods that are up and coming. So if I have somebody that's really like, hey, I want a new construction home, or I want to get more square footage for the price, then instead of, showing them things that are like North Dallas, I would suggest, hey, let's come on down and we can look more east. Like certain areas of East Dallas are a lot cheaper. You can get new construction. I know Seagoville is a big up and coming city. It's a little bit better on housing, on your wallet. I know that Heartland and Forney are up and coming areas that I love to show buyers, hey, if you're okay with going more east, these are really good. So it's always part of your strategy should be, okay, what are the areas that are going to give me the most bang for my buck, but I'll still be very close. I mean, these cities are probably about 20 minutes from downtown Dallas. So you're not necessarily moving away. You're just going a little further out. And then part of navigating the home buying process is getting pre-approved. And I think some buyers are a little afraid of that work. It's like, oh no, I have to show a lender all of my financials and I don't want to do that. But it's important because you need to know how much the bank is going to mortgage you, right? You want to understand what your budget is, so that way you're not looking at homes that you could afford a little bit more, and you're also not looking at homes that, there's no way we can make it work. So you want to make sure that it fits into that budget. And then another very important aspect of affordability is going to be down payment assistance. So if you can qualify for down payment assistance, the lender is going to be the one to tell you, hey, these are the programs that we have available. This is what you're going to be able to qualify for. And then from there, me, you, and your lender kind of go through, hey, this is the plan. This is how much you can get in down payment assistance. And this is how much we can mortgage you. And a great story I have about this, Andrea, that I couldn't wait to tell until I got on camera. Was I just had a family that I closed with yesterday, and they bought a house. It was in the city of Arlington, but it was right by Grand Prairie. So it's like that little area between Grand Prairie and Arlington, and they're kind of like sister cities there. But they got approved down payment assistance, right? We got them on a program called T-Shack. And then I was able to negotiate some money from the seller to help them with their closing costs and certain repairs. And by the time we got to the closing table, instead of them having to actually pay money, because typically when you close on a home, you have to bring money to closing. They call it cash to close. But instead of them having to bring money to closing, they actually got a check back from the title company, almost like a refund. So we were able to not only get them approved for that assistance they needed, but it was affordable. They could handle the monthly payment. And, they're a regular family like me and you. So, and all that was possible because of understanding what their budget and what kind of financing they could qualify for made that possible.
That's a wonderful story. I love that. And you brought up so many important points that prospective home buyers are considering as they navigate the market. Obviously, you mentioned flexibility is key, having a plan that kind of organizes your priorities from highest to lowest. Like if you're big on location, that's got to be first. If you're very price conscious, that has to be number one, and then the other ones can flow after that. So I love, and the story that you shared really kind of brings that all together, which is wonderful. And you mentioned a couple of things that leads into my next question, but I'm wondering if you have other ideas. And I'm just thinking now in terms of first-time home buyers, who I'm sure, price is probably their number one or close to their number one priority. What ideas do you have or have you heard of that can make home buying affordable for first-time buyers? You mentioned a couple of things already, like down payment assistance, working with the lender, negotiating with the seller. In terms of repairs and closing costs. Are there other things that could help first-time buyers get into their affordable forever home?
Sure. So a couple of things in making homes more affordable. And a lot of it starts with financing. So I hate to beat people's ear about this, but it does, having decent credit, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you have decent credit, that's going to actually help your monthly payment be lower because you can get a better interest rate. So it's understanding what kind of interest rate is your goal, what that credit score needs to look like in order to meet that goal interest rate you're looking for. Also, it's important to understand what things the city that you want to be in is doing. Like, Dallas has different down payment programs that are just specific to Dallas. Like there's DHAP, and it is a down payment assistance program, but it's a little bit different than what the state offers you. And then also understanding sometimes with certain jobs that you work, they will have shared equity programs. I know that the city of Dallas has a couple of programs called, I think it's called Community Land Trust, that they'll do certain things that you can get into and be able to build a home on land that you can basically have a ground lease on. It's fancy terms for basically you get to lease a certain plot of land. You can build a home on it. Sorry, I'm getting notifications here. You can build a home on it, and then they also have deed restrictions when you do build that home. So if you sell it, then the next person can also take advantage of it being affordable. So it's, to make that long story short, it's kind of understanding what your city or what city you want to be in does in order to help home buyers outside of just down payment assistance and FHA loans and different loans that make it cheaper than to have a lower down payment. And then also there's different initiatives. Like I know that Dallas Housing Coalition has at least one that they've just given a large lump sum of money to for affordable housing. But there's also different programs. Like there's a program called NACA that deals in affordable housing. They're more on the lending side, but it's a program that you don't have to make a down payment. So really, it's just understanding the whole landscape of your financials, the community you want to be in, and what they offer, like what the city offers, as well as what programs are actually available to you.
That's great. So I didn't realize that there are all different types of home buyers assistance programs, that there's some on the state level,
Mm-hmm.
there's some on the municipality or city level. And then the other wonderful thing that you brought up that I'm not sure that a lot of people have considered or thought of is maybe what types of programs your employers have
Mm-hmm.
to support your asset building in terms of home ownership as well. That's great. That's great. And then it sounds like, based on your extensive biography and all the great information that you shared, is that you've got to have a great real estate agent that can help you
Sure.
navigate all of these programs, um, help you work with lenders, things of that nature as well.
Sure. And one thing I will say, Andrea, is that, everybody has their niche, right? You have some brokers, because I'm a real estate broker, you have some brokers that might only do luxury, or you might have some that only do city or ranch. But my niche is affordable housing, median income buyers and sellers, in that price range of, 200 to 400 is the average for me. So it's always, you want to find somebody that is specific to you as a buyer, that, hey, I'm a normal buyer. I'm looking for a house for my family. And that's probably the most important, because I would know how to help you compared to somebody that only does a certain level of real estate or only a certain niche, rather than affordable, normal housing for, the everyday person.
That's great. That's great. And then that it really kind of leads me into my next question. And I'm kind of curious too, because of your focus on the specific price range that you mentioned, that definitely is considered affordable for home buyers at a certain income bracket. What other types of roles do real estate agents play in the context of affordable housing, or housing affordability and advocacy? And I'm also curious, even before you answer that question, I always like to hear origin stories, in that, why did you decide that your niche would be the $200,000 to $400,000 property buyer? So if you could
Sure.
share a little bit about that, and then the role
Yeah,
brokers can play in the context of affordability and advocacy, that would be great.
I would love to. Really, for me, it's just that's who my people are in that sense. These are everyday. This is like my family. I've helped multiple people in my family buy a home, and that's the price point they're in. Under 400,000, maybe 350 to 400, and I've had sold and helped people buy properties that were 200 plus. But typically, that's just normal people. That's the price range they fall in. If you have a normal job, you're a mom, you're a dad, that's really what's affordable to you. So for me, it was, I wouldn't even say it, I chose it. It really chose me, because those are most of the people that I help. And when it comes to doing down payment assistance programs and grants, that's specifically what I know pretty well. So usually people come find me, and I know how to help them correctly. So I would say it chose me, but it's an easy niche to be in for me, because I know exactly how it works, and I know the pain points for people and why those needs are there. Truly.
Absolutely. And to the extent that when you think of advocacy in the context of housing affordability, um, for other real estate agents that are like you, and care about, home buyers, getting into their forever affordable home, what role can they play from an advocacy standpoint in that context?
That is a good question. I think that you can always partner with local organizations. I think that's part of really part of advocacy is partnering with local organizations, kind of understanding what the community is interested in and learning, interested in seeing happen in their community is part of it. I think understanding and not all of it, because I know it's a lot of work being a real estate agent and kind of being expected to understand everything about real estate, and then you make sure you know what's going on in politics. But it is a good idea to kind of understand what's happening in the landscape of real estate and how it's going to affect normal people. So I would say just trying to have an understanding of that, really checking in with advocacy groups, I think is super important. And also supporting zoning changes is a big one that I noticed is helpful, because right now in the DFW, a lot of you know land and plots of land is single family, zoned for single family. But I know that we're starting to, especially in the city of Dallas, is shift into multifamily and mixed use. So I think kind of understanding how those zoning changes are helpful and not hurtful and will help the community, because sometimes a community that's mostly single family is afraid of mixed use and multifamily, and they're afraid of that density being a little higher. But it would actually help the community, and advocating for those things, it would help the community, and it would just bring more business to everybody in the end. Even if a real estate agent is helping somebody find a condo instead of, or a co-op instead of a house, it's still business to be done, and people still need housing. So we should be open to different types of housing and advocating for those different types of housing as well.
That's great. And you mentioned, as part of answering that the question I just asked, the importance of partnering with organizations from an advocacy standpoint. And it's such a good segue into this next question in terms of how might other real estate professionals, such as yourself, collaborate with organizations like the Dallas Housing Coalition to ensure that housing is affordable and accessible to all communities?
Sure. So one of the things that I think is so essential is just education. One of my goals, especially with the Dallas Housing Coalition, is just being a resource for education, being a perspective for people to understand, hey, it is possible to buy a home if you're, making the median or even a little less than the median income. It's possible. It's possible to not have to bring money to closing, depending on what kind of programs that you could qualify for. So my thing would be just educating, resources, partnering with even DHC, and just kind of helping people understand what's possible and the roadmap to get there. So I think for other agents, it would just be really having a game plan of like, hey, maybe once a week I'll speak to somebody at DHC and kind of understand what they have, what they're working on, and how I can actually help and assist and volunteer with that. And if you do that, you're gonna get business regardless. So it's just kind of being tapped into what Dallas Housing Coalition is doing, and partnering and giving that free education to people so they can help themselves. So I think that's the best way for agents to do that, truly.
I love that. And with that, I'm just wondering if you would like to share any final comments or lasting thoughts with our audience today about what you do, how it relates to affordability, or anything in between.
Sure. Well, I love what I do, and I want everybody to have hope. I think that right now, especially if you're like a millennial, you're feeling like I can't afford a house. I can't do. None of this is working for me, and rent is high. And I just want you to know there are things out there available to you if you're thinking about home ownership, if you're thinking about even wanting to better understand leases or affordable leases. Don't feel like it's not available to you, and reach out, ask questions, and just be open to the possibility that home ownership and affordable housing is available to you, because it is out there. It's just a process of getting there. So have hope and be open is what I would like to leave everybody with.
I can't think of a better way to end this conversation. Thank you so much, Shaye, for joining us this morning and sharing your unique perspectives
Absolutely.
on the issues of housing and affordability and accessibility as as a real estate professional in multiple markets.
Sure.
Um,
For
before
having me.
we Absolutely. And we have to have you back.
Bring me.
Before we sign off today, please be sure you follow Dallas Housing Coalition on all its socials for updates on future episodes of the Housing for All webinar series, as well as how you can get involved in the work of the Dallas Housing Coalition. While you're at it, be sure to go to the Dallas Housing Coalition's website at dallashousingcoalition.com, where you can learn more about our member organizations and supporters. And if you find yourself on the website and you're not already a member, you can do so right on the page. Thank you again for joining us for another edition of Housing for All, where we discuss whether Dallas is big and if it is truly big enough for everyone. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.